It was a fall evening, and my 2-year-old daughter and I were in the apartment, and it was a beautiful, colorful sky, and she wanted to go have a picnic. So we grabbed a blanket and made a couple of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and spread the blanket under an oak tree, and we're enjoying our picnic. And all of a sudden I saw this huge dark swirl in the sky. Looked like a dark tornado, but it was thousands of birds, a big vortex of birds just descending from the sky and roosting in the trees. Can you imagine? And it moved me so I felt compelled to go get a tablet and a pencil and start writing. And I've never stopped. So as odd as it may seem, I didn't make a conscious decision to be a poet. But it quickly took over a chunk of my life.
My name is Ken Hayda, and I'm a professor at East Central University, and this is my 15th year to be here. We don't do workshops, we don't do how-to, we don't do analysis, so it's really not a conference in the academic sense of the word. It's a festival, and we're just having fun, and we're kind of focusing on creativity and the right side of the brain, and putting all these different personalities and styles and genres, intentionally mixing them up. So you might have an experimental poet beside a National Book Award winner in fiction, who might be beside a writer you've never heard of who has just published his or her first book, and so we intentionally mix all that up, and the result, I think, has been pretty phenomenal.
Well, I'm privileged to be one of approximately 55 author presenters at the Scissortales Creative Writing Festival, which is one of the largest such festivals in the country.
This is my 7th year, and a friend of mine who had been here for the very first 2 or 3 suggested it to me. She said, you'd really enjoy it, and by golly, she's right.
It's a great egalitarian gathering. Everybody has a chance, and there's people from all over, all walks of life, all different stages in their writing career. There's professional writers, there are academics, and then there's people like us, like I am, who I consider myself kind of a street poet because I never had any creative writing training or anything, but I've always been drawn to it. And there's quite a lot of people in Oklahoma like that, and in Texas and surrounding states. And we have a equal opportunity with the big guys to come and read our work and share our creativity.
Poets need audiences, and they'll drive 9-10 hours to read for 20 minutes. So, that's all we're doing is just giving them a place to read and an audience, that was the simple origin. It's very simple, and over the years it's just become kind of a rendezvous, is the way I look at it, a gathering place where people come back together and they've made friends. A lot of these people are on the road a lot of the time of the year. They go to festivals all over the country, and so this is really cool because Ada has now become one of those places that they must go to see, and it's really satisfying for that. What we're doing is we're reading our own stuff that we've written. So what the audience sees is the embodiment of the mind and of the spirit that created that. So if someone's working on a novel, in solitude and in quietness, they had voices and images and characters in their head, and they were imagining those. Well, then as an audience at the festival, we get to see that and it become embodied before our eyes. And it's, everybody likes to be read to, and it's that's all we do is we just take turns reading to each other. And I saw when I was in Kentucky, a little diner, they had a restaurant, a little country diner had a sign, our specialty is what we have. And, and that's that's kind of the motto I use. We don't have the world's greatest facilities. We have limited resources, etc. But our specialty is what we have, and that is we have people who want to hear it, and we have enthusiastic presenters, and we have an opportunity to come together and do it. And it's become very inspiring. Everybody brings their A game.
My name is Ron Wallace. I'm from Durant, Oklahoma. In college, it hit my mind that that's what I wanted to do, and then I went to work in the public schools. And so it kind of got put on hold for about 20-something years. And then I won a contest, and it came back off of hold. Well, technically, it's called narrative free verse. I tell stories. I just had one guy tell me one time I didn't write poetry. I wrote broken prose. But it's storytelling. No, it's narrative. Almost all of mine is. It's the bulk of my work. People, refer to me basically as a poet of place, and I write about Oklahoma, and specifically southeastern Oklahoma, and my family and the people I know from that area, and that's pretty much the whole bulk of my work is the plays. It is an art form. There's a talent to it, like there is to painting or singing or music. I think they're all the same. They're just different venues of the same outlet. It's expression. It's one way to do it. The object of my writing usually is I want to move somebody. I want somebody to read it and feel it, and to understand what it was that I was trying to make them feel or see or hear. I want them to just go, oh, and understand more than anything else. I couldn't imagine not writing. If nobody read it, I would probably write it and stack it up. As a matter of fact, every once in a while I wonder if anybody does read it. Stars and stones mark the tattered edges of the world. 2 brown trout are heavy in your wicker creel, and the air slowly cooling. But you've moved on, wading into the sleepy current, mending the line as the day falls. Fire lighting on dark ripples like a dance of dragonflies, burning Blue River black and yellow. Your fly rod whipping a whispered cast into the setting sun, haloing your silhouette golden against the coming of night on the water. One more cast, a hand-tied lure arcs out from the rocks through the scattered sunset shadows and is gone.
My name's Dorothy Alexander, and I was born and reared in Roger Mills County, Oklahoma. I just want to get it down. I want to preserve it. I was fortunate enough to know all 4 of my grandparents, and all 4 of my grandparents were great storytellers. The oral tradition was really strong in our family and still is. And I think telling stories, as Merle Rukeyser said, one of my favorite poets, the world is not made of atoms, the world's made of stories. We have to tell the stories. We have to keep it going. I like to say it helps us get through the dark. I'm working on a series of poems now called Whistling in the Dark, and how we get through this inexplicable existence that we live on this earth. You have to have something. You have to have something to hold on to, and people choose different things, and some people fall by the wayside. Some try to hang on to alcohol or drugs or something like that. But the people that survive and thrive are the people who create something as they go along. And so I've chosen a life of words and language to be my whistling in the dark. It perpetuates, it passes on the wisdom, whatever wisdom that we ever create, it's passed on through the word, it also preserves the memories, and memory is a great thing. Aristotle said that memory is the guardian and treasury of all things. And how do you preserve memory after the teller has gone? Well, you write it down, and then you've still got it. My grandparents taught my father and my mother that service to others, to charity, hospitality was it, and that's what you were here for, is to try to help other people through this life. And I think that that needs to be preserved. I like to think that my grandmother, the memory of my grandmother and what she taught me, will be sifted on down to my children, my grandchildren, and all those that come after. When Dad farmed with horses, stumbling like a man with one short leg, trying to plow a straight row, I ran behind him on bare feet, dizzy with the smell of damp sod, the sight of wriggling earthworms, tiny rocks striped like marbles, and the white roots of weeds laid bare to the sun. Once, overcome by the mystery of cool, sweet dirt, I lay face down on the ground and touched the grittiness with my tongue, then ran to catch up with Dad's broad shadow as he guided the reluctant team of horses, encouraging them by his clicking tongue. Weaving a wake of opened earth, our little caravan of horses, plow, man, and child moved slowly over the fields that rolled up like swells in open sea, and we plowed straight ahead until dark. I still follow my father's receding shadow, but now I am the one stumbling along, trying to keep a straight row over this rough ground.
My name is Larry Thomas, and I'm from Alpine, Texas. I think the closest we can come in many ways to our Creator is through the act of creating ourselves. And it's not important what we're creating as long as we find beauty in it, but just the act of making something from nothing that didn't exist before is a very rewarding experience. It's even more rewarding if you have other people around you find beauty in it so you can share it. But I think that's one of the joys. I write mainly in free verse, which, to a lot of people that like poetry in form, where it has end rhymes and it's very traditional, they sort of have a hard time seeing free verse as poetry. But there is a lot of rhyme in free verse. It's the free is a misnomer because it's easier for me to write in form than it is in free verse, where I have to establish my own form for each poem with internal rhymes and all of that sort of thing. My poetry is largely inspired by the natural world. I love Mother Nature, and I enjoy writing about the flora and fauna, especially of West Texas, which is my home. And I like to write about cowhands, and I enjoy writing about the ranching culture. It's such a rich part of the history of the Southwest. What I try to achieve with each and every poem is I look at the subject and I want to break it down to its barest essentials. So let's say it's a crow. I want to study that crow, determine what's really unique about that crow from all the other birds in the avian world, and I want to take that and crunch it into the oil of essence in as few words as possible and make it musical and visual but very concise. And when the reader reads that about the crow, if I'm successful, he will never see another crow without thinking about my poem. Now, I don't always pull that off, needless to say, but that's what I attempt to do. So it's capturing essence, the essence of something, and conveying that essence powerfully to the reader. In his umble call of close set poles, tied together and shored up with clay, mud, and grasses, he keeps it on an heirloom leather trunk beside his bedding. It lies beneath a half-inch cover of dust and hasn't been touched for years. In his dream, it looms, a black, lidless box brimming with the glazed, horizontally slit eyes of goats.
The last 3 years, over $5,000 in books were sold, so people are coming and buying books and, swapping books with each other.
I've published 7 books, all poetry. I've finished a novel, and I'm going to try to publish it this year.
Felt like a new mother. And like a mother who loves all her children equally, I love all the books. Maybe it's ego. A lot of it is ego, of course, to see my words in print. And I suppose everybody wants to perpetuate, a memory, because memory is where it's all at. And I like to think that my books will survive a little longer than I do.
To me, there's just something mystical about opening a book. Just grab one at random from a library shelf. Smell it. A lot of them are old and they have a layer of dust, on the top, and you blow that dust off and gently open it and hear that spine crack a little bit. And it's like opening a box of Cracker Jacks and looking for the prize. But it's just a tactile joy of handling an object that you don't really get in the glow of a computer screen. And that's my personal, sentiment about books. But I think it speaks for a lot of other people who really don't think the book will ever completely disappear.
Any writing forces you to try to make some sort of order out of chaos, to bring something into design. So as much as design is important in any area of life, well, then it follows that it's important in writing, because creative writing is design. You're designing something. You're making an object or an idea fit some sort of designation that's being developed. It's important, I think, because I think it helps us. If it's good, it's honest. And we can't be redeemed as a society, and we can't be a great culture if we're not honest about our failures. And we have to be honest about, what we do well and what we don't do well. And I think poets sometimes are voices that make us uncomfortable and remind us, what we need to remind ourselves about. So there's a prophetic voice. There's a humorous voice, a sarcastic, satirical voice, which is valuable. I just think in any way that a human can be creative, that's a natural possibility. And so that's one reason why we intentionally at the festival, we do not prescribe panels and put people who have similar worldviews or similar, genres or writing styles together. We mix it all up because that's the way reality is, and we're all human.
Good writing incorporates history, psychology, spirituality, and a number of other things that are very important to human beings. But I see the creative arts as an expression of our souls, our inner being, and our emotions, things we're passionate about. And, you know, if you read something that appeals to you, it can really reflect your sentiment in a way that's refreshing to you and satisfying, but it speaks to your powerful feelings as a human being.
There's so much in American history and American culture, and even in our contemporary scene, there's still so much creativity that occurs when we remember that we're organic and we get outside of the daily routine of where we're digitally controlled all day, and we get out into reality, and we see the stars and we touch the dirt and we think about the rivers, and so a place like Ada is a perfect place. I mean, because although we have obviously, you know, a high-tech industry and things like that, we're also a small community that is in touch with its rural origins, and I personally celebrate that.
I've been coming here for 8 or 9 years. It's one of the best gatherings for writers, poets in these United States, as far as I'm concerned. And it's all free. It's all free to the writers. I like to think it's in the spirit of Woody Guthrie. It's a Woody Guthrie kind of thing.
You don't have panels on how to do this or, you know, suggestions on what to do. It's more or less writers get together and they read their material and get a feedback from the other. A good portion of your reading is being read to other writers, so you get a pretty honest feedback. I'll come back next year if they'll have me. I mean, it's a really good area. Love the campus, love the people. It's just great.
I just get a good feeling. I feel at home when I'm here, and I don't really feel that way in very many places. It's nice. It's 2.5 days of bliss for a serious writer.
It's just a matter of being a host, and that's how I look at ECU and myself and all the staff, my colleagues who work with me. And this is the word I use a lot, we're hosting these people. We're presenting an opportunity for people to come, and we host them for 3 days. And so it's just being a good host is what kind of motivates the organization of it. And we can do that as well as New York City can. I've read in New York City, you know, we can do it here just as well, and we do.
View this program again anytime at www.youtube.com/cityofadaok.